Our next session from the front lines is being moderated by Mr. Deepak Deva, Managing Director, Travel Corporation of India, India's largest inbound travel company. For this session, to get the chat going, we have two homegrown companies, one travel company, and India's biggest online travel aggregator. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Deepak Deva. Mr. Deepak is joined on stage by Mr. Deep Kalra, Founder and Group Executive Chairman, Make My Trip, Ms. Priya Paul, Chairperson, APJ Surendra Park Hotels Limited, and Mr. Patu Keswani, Chairman and Managing Director, Lemon Tree Hotels.
Right. So, good to see that everybody's still here, and the last session is normally one where people start fading, but I think everybody's right here and we should get started. So
I think they're waiting for the bar to open.
They're waiting for?
The bar to open.
The bar to open, yeah. And the bar only opens if you sit through our entire session. So that's where it stands. So listen, thank you all very much for being here, and thank you to my fellow panelists. We have a great panel today, and I'm going to dive straight into the questions. COVID, as we all know, was a black swan event no one could have seen coming. However, it holds some lessons for us as an industry. I'll start with you, Priya. What would you have done differently if I took you back 18 months? And what will you be working on over the next few years to build resilience in your business?
Thanks, Deepak. Thanks for having us. So I think there were things that went right at that COVID time, and I'm looking back 18 months. And I think for our company, the team and the people and the leadership team just quickly rallied around the whole issue, created very quick responses, and kept on communicating, not just with the customers, but also with the team, because suddenly you go from a 24/7, hectic, almost 90% occupancies, and it's down to 9%. So I think dealing with that, and all, the hospitality professionals who are used to working 24/7, suddenly you have no place to go. So I think there was a lot of kind of hand-holding and communication. So I think that's what went right in terms of what we did. I would have loved to have more cash in the bank, and I think that's something that, I don't think anyone realized how long this would go on. So you thought, okay, fine, a couple of weeks and we'll be okay, but I think it just started dragging on and on. So it was, it's been a challenge to manage the finances and manage that. And, we're a medium-sized company, and yet, and everyone has struggled to balance things. So I think I would have loved to, let's say, keep more people on. We were unable to keep everybody on. We had to downsize and manage that. So there were amazing lessons told, and they were also very heartwarming, let's say, bonds that came between our team to weather this. So I think, yeah, some of the lessons.
That's the general sentiment, yeah, sure.
Yes.
Patu,
well,
from your side?
Is it what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, rather similar to what Priya said. See, this unfortunate thing was, firstly, as I mentioned to you, Deepak, it's not 18 months. I would say, what would I have done differently 24 or 30 months? Because 18 months ago, we did whatever we had.
Right.
But it was unfortunate because after a very long period, maybe 10 or 12 years of down cycle, all of us, the hotel industry, was actually coming into an upcycle. So the first major issue was the opportunity cost of the last 18 months has been much larger than if COVID had happened, say, 5 years ago. Because 5 years ago, the performance of hotels was, bottom cycle. And this COVID was, so the opportunity cost was from bad to terrible. But now, this year, I remember I was laughing with a couple of my board members about our budget in February last year and what we actually did. We did 25% of our budget. Our budget was 1,000 crores, we did 250 crores for old hotels. Okay, so that was the reality. So the opportunity cost, perceptionally, is 750 crores, right? What we did, I think, and I think it's a learning for all of us. I am 100% sure you ask 100 hoteliers, they'll say the same thing. Variabilize costs, and that's something we've done, and I know everybody has done. Number two is, in our case, we were going through a very major capex cycle. So we had operationalized about 2,000 crores worth of assets 6 months before COVID. So that interest cost, which should have been earned, was not. So cash in the bank is the second thing. I think the third thing we are doing very specifically is looking at digitally transforming our business. And that's a big focus. So we've got BCG working for us now. And we are looking at front-end customer loyalty, get customer contactless, which this has accelerated. And it's a huge manpower saving also. And then back-end, of course, as many processes as we want to, which we can transform. And, and use AI and machine learning much more than we did. One big issue we have, which I think most hotel companies will have, is revenue management now, in terms of trend lines, is irrelevant. We don't, last 18 months is, how do you do revenue management?
Sure.
So it's generally there, but I think I can say with a very large degree of confidence, you ask 20 hotel companies, they will all be on the same page in all these points. Would you agree, Priya?
Well, I think my revenue managers have been doing a good job because we've stayed open actually, like you, from day one.
I mean the
yeah.
trends.
The trends,
Customers are so different now.
But customers are different, and then you have to keep on responding to the
Yeah, but I'm
where
saying
they're
the
coming
data
from,
is
and
now
you.
very different.
Yeah.
And I guess there were a lot of projects that you always thought you could do, as you said, with technology, etc., which you were able to complete during this time, right? So that was also.
But one good news, Deepak, is that the customer today, the Indian customer is the most finicky guy in the world, or lady, right? So the lower the amount they pay, the more the service they want. It's an inverse relationship. So if you are a 5-star deluxe user, you want anonymity, you're happy to go and stay in your room and enjoy yourself. But if you pay $3,000, you want everything plus more, right? So this customer has gotten used to contactless delivery of service. And I think that's something we should all as an industry leverage, because that has productivity implications.
Fantastic. Deep, the travel business, I mean, I don't need to tell you what we all have gone through, especially the inbound business, but your experience has been very different because from the very beginning you were very involved with the domestic market, suggesting to the government, suggesting the way forward. So tell us about your experience.
Yeah, I think it's seldom one gets a chance to top what Patu said. So we reported a quarter, and Rajesh is right here, we reported April, May, June, a quarter where we were down revenues 95.5%. We actually reported, so it's called an earnings call, and I said it half in jest, it's a lack of earnings call. It was brutal. And like you said, there's nothing you could do about demand because 2 months of that were in total lockdown. So when you're reporting a quarter like that, of course everyone understood travel got hit. I think it's what you did to cost. But what we learned, I think 2 or 3 things. Very honestly now, and one can say it because it's 18 months ago, I think we were a bit in denial. We knew this has happened in China. We knew it had moved to, in China it happened in 2019, right? Therefore COVID-19. In India, it only hit us in 20. We know it moved to Spain, Iran, a few other places, Italy. And then we're saying, no, India, it's too hot. The virus won't survive. Remember that? Like, the virus won't survive in India because यहाँ गर्मी बहुत ज़्यादा होती है. So I think we almost started believing because of the lag. And we went about life. So I think we were caught with our pants a little down with our contact center, which is actually the only part of our job where we have to be there physically. Everything else we can work from home. So, Deepak, you shared that you were after 18 months you're going to office because you had no customers. So actually my heart goes out to you because it's purely inbound. And it's mystifying why India doesn't open its door to inbound tourists, and we'll probably talk about that. But for us, we could move everything online very easily because we were used to doing that. Techies love working from home anyway. The real problem was contact center. I think we should have acted faster. We shouldn't have been a bit of an ostrich with our heads in the sand, I think a bit. And thirdly, I think variabilized costs, which we all did post facto. I think we made up and we did that very fast. And we really, really put all hands on the deck just to cut down fixed costs, variabilize every cost. But I think we should have done it 2 weeks before we got into the practice mode of working from home. So that much happened. Should have happened maybe a month or two before.
And going forward, like what are the things that you would really focus on to make your business resilient?
Yeah, it's so many learnings. So the first one is variabilized costs wherever. And if you look at your P&L, you look at this thing, we all know what our fixed costs are. And the toughest one to cut, and Priya touched upon that, is people. It hurts. We let go of 10% people after 2 months. For 2 months, we thought we don't need to do this.
Exactly.
We will cut salaries, we'll cut top. At the top leadership team took huge cuts. Everyone, just said, listen, we don't want to let anyone go. But it became very clear that there were parts of our business which were not going to come back in a hurry. They're still not back. So outbound through retail and doing various things like that. Finally, we cut, but after that, knock on wood, we haven't needed to, and we hope we never need to. We also managed to raise cash between the two waves. So we doubled our balance sheet. So we got, I think, as comfortable as is possible. But the biggest learning is every time you're incurring a cost, you have to think twice. Is this fixed in nature? Is it semi-fixed or is it variable? If it's variable, it's fine, because marketing and stuff like that, you can cut very easily. For me personally, that's the biggest learning. So keep it as lean and mean. I also think this hybrid working thing, so it's just sharing with all of you, is a big learning. I think we are back in our Delhi, our head office is Gurgaon, where we are back at about 200 odd people in place of 1,500 on an average, 250. It's not bad. It's a good start. Everyone's singly vaccinated. Most are doubly vaccinated. We're not pushing people to come. In Bangalore, which is our tech center, it's hard to get one guy into the office because they don't want to come. So it's hard. But guess what? Productivity for a few months during this period was higher than 100%. In the initial days, people were going flat out. There was a crisis. We all respond very well to crisis, right? You either fight or flight. And we fought. So I think there was very high productivity. Then there was burnout. Now we are probably at 75-80% productivity, but office is buzzing now compared to what it was. And whoever's coming to office is just loving it. They're saying, this is what we were missing. Definitely their spouses are loving it because they're finally out of
the house.
So, but this is the new norm. I think people will come to work. Maybe if you don't have a cabin, I think if you have a cabin, you can come to work every day. And you probably should, especially because you're senior and you set the course for the others. If you don't have a cabin, I think coming into work 3 times a week might become the norm for a long period of time and just having more space. So I think we'll have to live with that.
Well, that's not the case in hospitality, where we need people back and bodies in.
Yeah.
And I think it's, we talked about it earlier, we are social animals. So I think people want to be in the office, people want to be traveling, people want to stay in nice hotels and travel. So I hope we're going to be working more than 3 times a week.
So let me move to another subject, which is when you're speaking to clients overseas or you speak to hoteliers in India too, there is a general sense that there's going to be an issue going forward with service because you may not attract good talent, and a lot of talent has left and done other things. And there is also this lack of energy in hoteliers to invest in the regular, let's call, not only renovation, but general maintenance and renovation of hotels. Now, what do you think will happen? I mean, let me ask Pathu first. What do you think will happen with this? Because will standards drop? Will quality drop over the next 24 months?
Speaking personally, I know, to me, there are 3 types of costs. Costs you can defer, like renovation. Costs that are flabby, that you discover in crisis. And costs that are muscle, which you cut and you turn a Nelson's eye to.
Right.
Because you cannot afford to give that to a customer who's paying half the price. Right? So we stopped giving soap bars and we gave that soap gel. Right? So now the way I saw it was in the last 18 months, most of our customers are not our customers. They're guys who are, because we've dropped rates so much and they're quarantine guests and healthcare professionals and BCP employees of tech companies and people who are basically coming for staycations who would otherwise, at $2,500 go to a guest house. These are not our customers. So turning a Nelson's eye, I felt even strategically or tactically was a good strategy. But now our customers are returning. We've also not renovated last year. Typically we spend 40 odd crores a year renovating. So we are going to invest in that, but next year. Okay. As far as talent goes, here's an interesting learning. We had 8,500 employees. Today we have 5,500. And I'm told when I give all our services back, at least my colleagues tell me we need 6,500. which means 2,000 were redundant. That
Right.
was a flap.
Yeah.
Corporate office, I have 250 people, I'm told I can do with 100, including not me. In fact, a colleague of mine told me, you are also not required. Jokingly, I hope. The point is, there have been enormous learnings. Whether we operationalize them or we go back to that
Right.
old attitude, I have no idea who will do what. But this I can tell you, I don't think there is a big talent crunch. I think there are so many job losses in India, so many tens of millions of job losses, that there is talent, okay? Number two, as far as the renovation of hotels goes, I think most companies will require renovation, otherwise they will suffer. So it's a no-brainer to me, personally.
Okay. Fair enough, Priya.
No, I agree. I think there are 2-3 things happening. There's enough of talent because of the job losses. There's a bit of a churn, so actually you might end up picking better talent for the job. And personally, I think sometimes that's healthy to have that artificially induced churn. And I think people have opened restaurants. They might come back to proper jobs. That's also, if you're seeing that a lot of people have moved out of the hospitality industry, that's the thing. Some of these businesses are not sustainable or may not be sustainable going forward. I think the digital transformation is what's going to actually help us streamline the people costs and the processes going forward. So I think that is more interesting for our companies to see what people can do without also, the extra service, the menus that we produce by the millions, a lot of waste that goes on. So that's, I think, what every company has been looking for. Yeah.
Fair point. Deep, do you see, from your looking at it away from hotels, hotels would normally all say everything is going to be fine in another 3 months. Do you fear that they may be, at least at the middle to the upper level or the experiential hotels, where, owner-driven hotels fully involve themselves, they probably will make sure things are absolutely in place. But larger hotels where your guests go or book, do you feel that there would be a drop? Do you expect that? Or do you think, no, that's not going to happen?
Actually, quite the contrary. So if there have been 2 big trends for us on the hotel side of the business through the pandemic, it's been a clear preference of moving up.
Branded hotels.
Moving up, branded hotels, large hotels, and for a very simple reason. They are doing more for safety. There's more space. So resorts have been the highest in demand.
Yeah.
And the moment there's a long weekend, people wanted to get out, and we saw the resorts come back first. Now, of course, the price point, and that was the whole issue, right? Because the prices came down. But look at it now. We look at our booking profile, which is all dependent on our principals, folks like you, and we look at the weekends coming up ahead, and all the places that you want to get to are easy to get to. Driving destinations, short flight destinations are chock-a-block again. And the prices are back, and why not? That's revenue management. It should, because I think, hats off to all of you hoteliers, especially the ones who were very bold and who opened up when others were saying, listen, let's wait and watch. And you got some rewards, but they were deferred. You didn't get the reward right away, but there were few of you who definitely said, and you guys are here, Rohit's here from Taj, I think you guys were amazing in opening up, and you said, listen, we are ready to open up, and you saw that people wanted to go for a couple of reasons. A, the youngsters wanted to travel. They wanted to be in places where there was enough, not enough homestays in the country, and that was the second big trend which we'll talk about. So I think that's like you've tasted blood once. Once you stayed in a hotel of that standard, then you figure out a way to get there again. You don't come down, you don't cut your thing. Then you say, listen, next holiday, aisi jagah jayenge, kind of thing. So we think that's been one of the biggest, probably positive moves. And not just because we're sitting at Hixa, but I think for the whole industry, it has fundamentally accelerated the movement upwards. One is digitally. You both said digitally, and I haven't said digital till now, but that's true. It's doubled the number of people who buy online.
Yes.
So what's happening in the markets today, outside of travel, because we are the worst hit, is just because the number of people who buy online in the country is doubled. It used to be 110 million pre-pandemic. It's probably going to end up at 250 million, more than the people in the US who buy online. So that's huge. The second one is the move up. And the third one for us is the mainstreaming of homestays.
Yeah.
So and
we'll come to that.
Right.
We'll come to that. And
and I see a huge trend in the city hotels. Apart from the resorts where the rates have firmed up, so are the city hotels getting.
No, also from a
and
quality
getting
point of
traction.
view, I think I'd agree with you that the quality is not going to drop.
Yeah.
It's only going to
Yeah,
get
and
better.
the protocols have been-
I don't think the quality is dropped. I think the question is that as Partha was saying, is, okay, fine, if you had the medical fraternity, you modulated your offering to, with the costs, you know. to keep
And the
costs
protocols
under
have been great, by the way. I think
Yeah.
it took a bit, but after that,
Yeah.
I think you don't feel
well said.
unsafe. Yeah.
Let me put this question to both of you first, and then Deep's going to defend this. Do you really see there's a future for a travel agent going forward? Okay, Deep, I can.
I'm
Deep
gonna
may turn
leave.
around.
This is our
I'm
Deep
leaving.
may,
controversial
Deep
question.
may turn around and say, you know, I'm a technology company, which largely he is.
Which he is.
But to both of you, I mean, I'm asking this question. Do you really see the need of a travel agent? I mean, I understand hotels got the best rates in this period from the domestic market. Most of them got it because they were dealing direct with the customer. Okay, companies like Make My Trip have a platform which can deliver at a very competitive price. So, what's the future of your relationship with travel companies going forward? Why do you even have to talk to any of them?
You're such a troublemaker. Yeah. Who got him? Manav? I mean, okay.
No, but you're
No,
a,
I think
you're
it's a fair
platform
question.
and it provides a different service. I think we still need them. Some people still need them, and I
So,
think there is a
it's a
business.
need-based
Yeah, so
relationship,
no, forget
okay.
the inbound, even for domestic travel. I think if you have a complex itinerary, or you want to do a whole lot of experiences, etc., and or you're getting back into that MICE business as a customer, you need a travel agent to plan and deal with the minutiae and have a, from a customer point of view, you need that single point customer who can deal with all your hassles. Otherwise, I think as hotels also, we're quite happy to outsource that to a travel person, an expert who can deal with, you know, the car not coming on time or X, Y, Z. So I think there is a need, and I think it'll be a very specialized business, number one. And I think if you're a travel agent who doesn't offer, let's say, a differentiated product, or you're not able to offer experiences, then you're better off just booking on Make My Trip, because it's commodity. Not that you don't have experiences and things like that, but you know, and you're bundling them
Sure.
in a more cost-efficient commodity type of way. So
But-
I think there's a need for both.
Patu?
So I have a very different perspective, and not
Naturally.
a comforting one for you
No,
and
no,
for
no.
Deep,
We want
and for
fair.
us.
I've asked you because I want fair answers.
So
yeah.
you know, my mother used to love reading Reader's Digest, and in it there was I remember a section, 2 or 3 pages, called Life's Like That. So there were all jokes in it, and the banner was 3 fish. There was a tiny fish being eaten by a bigger fish who was being eaten by a bigger fish. Right? So this is the story, I think, of what tech is going to do. So once you talked about software as a service, software will eat the world. Here's my view. My view is the biggest threat to nearly every business in the world are platform companies like Google, Amazon, and equivalents, Facebook. They are the biggest threat, definitely to Deep.
Yeah.
Okay. When you own 1 billion customers, it's a question of how you use that pipeline. Right? Logical.
enough.
Hotels traditionally, and well, you can argue plus and minus, are terrified of OTAs. Because OTAs, while providing a certain service, are also taking a certain cost for it. Now, traditionally, the way I looked at it, and I used to joke with Deep, is that Priya just said it's an outsourced service. That was an outsourced service to me because it's the cost of goods sold. So if Make My Trip gives me, you know, well, I think they give us 1,200-1,300 customers a day, then they are basically a sales channel for me.
Yes.
But it's my job then to convert that guy back to me
Sure.
and not, you know, let cashbacks and so on and so forth, which violate the parity and all that stuff. But we are not going there. My broad point is, there will be mass customization, that's where I disagree with you, Priya, by these tech platforms.
Okay.
You know, once you have enough data, you can customize anything.
Sure, sure.
Right. So the only way a hotel company can survive the onslaught of people like let's put it this way, relevant enough to a tech company like Make My Trip or maybe later a Google, is you control enough supply. So my theory is very simple. If I can control 50% of supply in a micro market, then I am as relevant to them as they are to me.
There too. Fair enough.
So that's my only thought on response.
No, fair enough. And
Yeah, but
Deep-
for a customer point of view, it's easier to go on a platform and click and buy any of the hotels. Why would I?
Yeah.
So, I mean, even
let
if you
me
control
ask,
50%.
Think of it, yeah, Netflix is telling me what to watch, and I love watching what they recommend. So why can't they
Yeah.
customize
So-
Yeah,
everything?
they can sell you hotel rooms.
Yeah, so let me ask Deep the question a little differently. Why would you need to sell hotels in the future? Would you focus more on experiences, stuff that clients can't curate, something hotels just can't get their head around? They just can't get their head around experiences. And there are lots of other services which are probably more profitable than selling hotels at a very low margin. So it's not this or that, is it both? Or how would you look at it differently?
Yeah, I like the very low margin part that you used. Yeah, so please not. Please not. So see, I think great points made by Priya and Patu both, and even the question's really good. I think the offline travel agent definitely has a place, but only in the bespoke experiences now.
Absolutely.
What's got commoditized, obviously, is ticketing. Started with air ticketing or rail ticketing and bus ticketing and all of that. Why? It's largely a commodity, right? It's a two-parameter game, like what's the cost and what's the time. You've been in a plane once, you know what a plane looks like, if it's a, kind of domestic flight or whatever. Hotels has actually been a real challenge to get to sell. It hasn't been easy because the market itself was taking time. India is probably the only market in the world where people go without a reservation and check out different hotels. They'll go to Shimla, they know they want to stay in the mall. This maybe none of us is a typical customer, but that's India typical. They'll go and negotiate across 3 or 4 counters. And some of you will remember our ad where we had, Alia on the reception and we had Ranveer coming there thinking, I'll get the best discount across the counter. And we said, no, you'll get the best discount actually when you book online. But India, this is India. People go to Goa, they're saying, we want to stay on Kalangut or Baga Beach. They'll stop the taxi. They will leave their kids in the car, little kids in the car, and I promise you, I've heard this in focus groups, I almost fell off my chair. I said, बच्चे कहाँ थे? बच्चे तो गाड़ी में थे, taxi में थे uncle के साथ. Uncle is the driver, who they met 1 hour ago. Anyway, they will go to the reception, they will go check out rooms, they will go check out everything. So this is India, and it's not going to change overnight. The suave, sophisticated customer will start his journey rightfully, as Patu said, from Google, and say, luxury hotels in Udaipur. And boom, that's where Raffle will pay top dollar right now to because they have a new place in town, and all the others will be there. How do you choose? So I think if you can provide value, and it goes back to that point you made of experience, Patu, irrespective of online, offline, hotel, OTA, if we are giving enough value to the customer for the price or the time he's giving us, she will come back.
Yep.
And that is why Lemon Tree out of nowhere, I remember when Lemon Tree started, it was your figment of your imagination and idea, this thing gave, you made it a brand. People now say, listen, business travelers in that city, I want to stay in Lemon Tree for a reason. Park Hotel has Park Love. Like I know what happens in Calcutta. I went to Calcutta after years. The first place we had to go was Park Hotel. So you build that. There are 10 other competitors. Everyone's there. I think it's the love that you build. So even for us, while we never touch the customer, if our experience is good, which means smooth, this thing, get done, no problem. If there's a problem, we take care, people come back.
Yeah.
If we don't, like you shared with me an example of where there's dissat going on, on our platform, particularly with your hotel, we will lose customers over time. People will say, hey, there's an issue, we can't do this again, so we better rectify that. It comes down actually to the same principles and Amazon is the best example of that. It is not the cheapest game in town. I'm talking in the US. And all of you out there will struggle, except my colleagues who have heard this before, will struggle to name number 2 to Amazon in the US.
That's right.
Why? Because
fair
the experience is great. I'm giving them free publicity because they are just a machine. They do a really good job of customer experience each time. So I think we have to obsess about that even on our side. We don't touch our customers, so we never get the time to deliver that little nice fruit basket there or take care of those little needs. Oh, you're vegetarian, but you're vegan or you're not vegetarian and everything, and we don't get that opportunity.
Right.
But we have very nuanced opportunities on customization. The Netflix point is phenomenal. If today we can't serve up relevant content to our customer who's bought from us 10 times and come to us 100 times, then we have failed.
Yeah,
so we have different challenges, but they're there.
But obviously, it's all revolving around technology and whoever can bring value. Fair enough. Do you think that enough attention has been paid to assure human beings the freedom to travel again? This is something we all are struggling with. Has the travel and hospitality industry actually lost time as it failed to push for a global travel framework that would include a commonly accepted vaccination certificate so that, resources like testing would be used for unvaccinated travelers? Today, it's crazy. You have double vaccination. Most countries still ask you for tests. When will this all formulate, come into place, be easy for people to travel. Because I think one of the greatest hurdles for travel is actually today will be inconvenience, even if you open borders. So, Priya, you want to, we are actually, have to be careful of time.
Okay.
We've
No, I think there
got
are
very
multiple
little.
things. There's domestic travel and all those permissions that you need even to travel inside the country. I think that's a little more streamlined. But we've seen those issues between our states also. So I think it needs political will. And you know that these border, who flies where and who doesn't and what is happening is sometimes political. And yes, the world maybe has no solution and doesn't have a vaccine passport as yet. I think we talked about it a year ago in some of the forums that we were in. But so that hasn't happened. Is it
And
too late? I think
if it
probably
doesn't
too
happen,
late.
it's not going to
No,
work.
so now individually
know,
everybody's doing their own thing. So.
I still have hope, but
Yeah.
short answer is not going to
No.
happen. It's just we thought we were so close with the common pass. Even in
Yeah.
Europe, there's a green pass. For some countries, it's all political.
Yes.
We couldn't agree as 30 states. We still don't have the
Yeah,
common one. I mean,
exactly.
it's just like where's there any hope?
Yeah.
Patu?
So I'm not a big believer now.
Same thing.
Same.
Yeah.
Politics and public health. So public health will always trump
Policy on this, yeah.
everything
The-
else.
The last I heard is that it has to be reciprocal. I thought only trade was reciprocal. Now it's come down to this. So anyway, let's leave it there. All right, I want to now move to my favorite hospitality company, Airbnb.
Really?
In April 2020,
Who's that again?
Why is it your favorite?
who's that again?
I haven't heard of that.
In April 2020, most pundits said that they would collapse. Brian Chesky managed an IPO over Zoom, went public in December 2020, opened at $146 on opening day, and the market cap was $102 billion US. That day, Marriott, and no disrespect to my friends from the larger hotel companies, Marriott, Hilton, and Intercontinental combined were at $84 billion on that December day. So the sharing economy is here to stay. My question to you, Patu and Priya, is what do you think of the Airbnb model, and do you consider them a real competitor?
He can go first.
So see, thanks Priya, I noted that. What is a competitor? I think the way the world is moving, competitors are also collaborators in many
Fair
forms,
point,
right?
fair point.
So I could say that Make My Trip is a competitor to the hotels for customers, as an example. But actually they are collaborators, they are creating customers, right? So Airbnb see, I'll give you an interesting statistic. How many rooms do you think are there in the world? Forget Airbnb. In the world, how many rooms are there? Does anybody have an answer? You get a free weekend in the Rambagh Palace, which Rohit will give you.
200 million.
6 billion.
Hotel
There are-
rooms.
Rooms.
No,
There are
registered?
as many rooms in the world as there is a people. 6 or 7 bill, the number is somewhere. So here's an interesting thing. There are enough rooms in the world to give 1 room per person, but 17% of the world is homeless. 3% of the world has, on an average, 3 rooms per person. That means 9 rooms for 3%, 9%. So you look at these statistics. This is, in my opinion, what's happening is a long-term trend for redistribution of resources for equity. Okay? What is Airbnb doing here? I have a nice villa in Goa. I have friends who have it, by the way, who've given it to Airbnb, and Airbnb sells it for them and gives them an experience. Customers are also, with a thing like COVID, are getting used to privacy and bespoke experience, and that will lead to facilities. Now, in my opinion, one of the side effects of this will be facility management companies who will manage Airbnb's housekeeping, food and beverage and stuff. Right, it
But
could be
Patu,
us.
do you see
But they already do.
guests going away from Lemon Tree
Certainly.
into Airbnb?
100%, and I want to capitalize on that. The way I see it is Airbnb expands the number of guests.
Right.
Because in my opinion, these forms of supply create demand also.
Sure.
Right? Number 2 is, why can't I participate in that? Why can't I be a facilities management company to them?
Good point.
So it's collaboration. The way I see success for us, for the accommodation sector,
It's
is
good for the
collaboration.
ecosystem.
Yeah,
It's
and
good
these, all these guys, it'll keep happening, yeah.
Yeah.
Disruption
Sure.
is a part of life.
Fair enough. Priya?
No, I think both models are there to stay, and there's no harm in it. There are people who like that whole Airbnb and that privacy and the experience, and they do an outstanding job of the experiences. But there are hotel companies such as even the Taj who moved to Amma Stays, which is kind of doing this in that same space at a more luxury level. Not all Airbnb is cheap and cheerful. There are many, many levels of
Sure,
it,
sure.
and many outstanding experiences too. So just as you have hotels of many types, you will have villa stays and home stays and private stays of various types. And I think because of this pandemic, that model is to stay. But people still want to go to physical hotels, and whether they're 10 rooms or 1,000 rooms, for the other bells and whistles and the whole experience
Fair
of
enough.
being in those
Fair enough.
spaces.
Fair enough. Deep, if you look at your future customer, would Airbnb be somebody you would collaborate with? Would they be, what would you do with Airbnb as a business model? Because they've just taken off. There's no stopping them now. So how would companies like Make My Trip collaborate with Airbnb? Is there a possibility?
No, I don't think so. Like, I agree with Patu and hospitality being the first. And in India, by the way, homestay is a big challenge. So unlike the Western world, and for the simple reason, you don't need to clean your house twice a day in most developed countries. In India, if you don't clean it at least once a day, it's filthy. Simple reason. You can do cooking, you can do outsource, you can go out and cook, you can order in, you can do Uber Eats, you can do whatever you want. But someone's got to clean. So facility management, no one wants to go on a holiday and start cleaning.
Yeah.
Right? So that's going to stay. So, through the pandemic, that was the second thing. It was the mainstreaming of homestays. It was always a corner thing. Youngsters wanted a place like that so they could party all night, loud music, whatever, just not be in a hotel and constricted. A lot of people, again, let's say smoking. Now that's a big deal for a certain age group or certain people. They want to be in a place, you got the balconies, you got the verandas, no rules and all. Fully appreciate. Through pandemic, it's become mainstream. People like us, the first holiday most of us did was a driving trip and went and stayed in a cottage or a villa because we felt safe. We interacted with one guy, and the guy wore a mask, we wore a mask, he cleaned food, he would leave food there. We did this in Kasauli too, and I think everyone here would have done that.
Yeah.
You do 2 or 3 and then you say, listen, I can go to a hotel as well. I can get onto a flight as well. And actually, I think flying and going to hotels, if you're wearing a mask, the other person's wearing a mask is very safe. So the only unsafe people right now, 4 of us in this hall. Everyone else is wearing a mask. But anyway, so I think homestays are here to stay. They will grow the market overall. We, by the way, sell a ton of homestays now,
I
not
can
just
well
mainstream,
believe that.
a ton of homestays. According to me, we sell probably more than Airbnb in India, but obviously not anywhere else in the world. I mean, they're a great company, and I've met Brian, and it's just incredible what they've done. And what they're doing for Afghan refugees right now.
Brilliant.
I mean, I think that's awesome,
That's-
right? Which company can
Yeah.
do that
So
if you
let-
think about it?
yeah.
1 million, another million.
Yeah.
But we are squarely onto this, and the challenges of selling a homestay are 10x of selling a hotel room. Because there's no brand, there's no housekeeping, there's no service. You don't know what you'll get. People are
So-
scared, and
so you-
supply is scared, by the
Yeah.
way.
So you'll have take Pathu's idea. There would be collaboration from a structured organization being able to service homes, and
Of
that could be
course.
very
Absolutely.
Moving to your point, just to take from your point of the Afghan refugees, I want to just quickly talk about sustainability. We have about 10 minutes left. We understand our responsibility towards a more sustainable world. We believe that it is the right of the future generations to experience the beauty like we've seen it. Each of you run organizations that are sensitive to and are focused on sustainability. One example each that you'd like to share with the audience where you have made a difference, or where you feel you have made a difference which the others can learn from. Priya, for you to start with, and any views on sustainability? I know you're big into it.
No, so from a company point of view, of course, it's using LEED principles in construction and management of our sites. And
Gentleman's on the phone. Priya,
Sorry?
you could just ask him.
Oh.
Sorry, Priya. Excuse me. Could you just keep the phone off? Thanks.
So, and one of the things that, I was able to do pre-COVID was actually to align our company's CSR and mission along the UN Sustainable goals. So whether that was working a lot in arts and environment, in women's empowerment, which I think I'm particularly
going to
proud
ask.
of, and that's where I feel that I'd like to, that we have been focusing on, whether it's at workplace harassment or really looking at how women get into the industry and how we can help them maintain their careers in the industry. For me, that is a personal goal. And I don't see enough of women in the industry, whether it's
Sure.
out there or on panels. So that's
And
something that,
rightfully
that's a passion, and I think that's where we can make an impact.
Wonderful.
And certainly, from an environment point of view, we are all, we all
But the
pressing
one
right
thing,
buttons.
the one thing that you really focused on was women empowerment.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's like,
Personally.
and there is a UN movement which you do
You will-
sign
yeah.
up to, and a lot of hotels should sign up to that,
Exactly.
right? Because that has the
Yeah.
audits and all of that. Wonderful. Patu?
So ESG, well, look, we are actually publishing our first ESG report next week. It's a public doc. So we looked at it in great detail. We've got a asset investor partner who is one of the world leaders in ESG, who's the Dutch pension fund.
Yeah.
So basically, let's talk of the three. As far as governance goes, I think we are really there. We've got a majority independent board. Every chairman is independent. As far as social goes, we are India's largest employers of disabled people. And we have very high scores. I was amused, Deep, you wouldn't know this, that the last year when we participated in Great Place to Work survey, we were India's 4th best. The only hotel company in the top 10 of the large organizations. And as far as environment goes, I think the big learning, and that's, by the way, economics, is that initially, if you looked at it 5 years ago, if you went renewable, the cost of renewable was higher than the cost of non-renewable.
Yeah.
Today, the cost of renewable is lower than the cost of non-renewable, so it's a no-brainer. So in our case, from 6% 4 years ago, we are going to be 36% renewable across all we've got 85 hotels by March this coming year. So that's one thing we've done.
Huge. That's
Yeah.
huge. Deep?
Yeah, I think really
One thing.
inspired with what Patu has done with PWDs and learning there. But it took us a while to figure out where the Make My Trip Foundation should focus. We did things willy-nilly, and before we realized, over a period of 10, 11 years, we helped plant 1.1 million trees. With a tiny bit of customer money we get, 17% of customers actually give that extra 5 rupees. Our own money, sometimes matching, but then it became large numbers, voluntary contribution, and we go and actually plant this with Seva Mandir and NGO outside Udaipur.
Yes,
I think that's making a difference. The other one, I want to sneak in another because I really want everyone here to think about it, which is we're trying, and it was my last trip pre-pandemic, was to the Andamans. A few of my colleagues were here with me that time, and we went and we're trying to get rid of single-use plastic, one island at a time. So we went to actually Neil Island. We couldn't do Havelock, it was too big. We set up 2 water ATMs with Tata's help, like their technology, but all our money. And we give reusable bottles, which you can fill for 1 rupee, 1 liter. And that water ATM and that clean place to shower, especially for women, and change,
Fantastic.
even breastfeed if you have to, on 2 of the best beaches there, is run by local women entrepreneurs of Andamans. Got the Chief Secretary to fly in and to inaugurate it. And he's promised us, if that does well, we will go to, hopefully to Havelock, and then maybe Port Blair. But imagine if that entire group, that entire archipelago can be made free of single-use plastic. We can, and if we don't do it, we are all, toast. And, Taj has set up the most stunning property out there, but no one will want to go after a certain point of time to those beaches because we get all the backlash of Thailand coming there, which we do. So we have to take this very seriously. None of our places will be worth going to.
Yeah.
We might have Ladakh, but all of you have seen the landfill that happens, at parts of Ladakh, the city, is disgusting. And, Mandy's right here, and he's like one of our biggest supporters, and he's doing RTSOI. If we don't do this, guys, we'll have no place to visit in India.
Yeah.
We will just have those 1-1 homestays here, there, and the moment people have money, they will go overseas. I can see that happening. So it's the most serious thing. I'm glad you asked that question. We've just all got to wake up and do something about it.
And it has to be a collective effort, and it has to be also engaging the traveler, educating them on it, because it's not just, even the traveler has to get educated
No,
on
and
it.
I think the big thing for everybody is climate
We
change
just
and
have
emission, which we haven't talked
We
about.
haven't even
Emission
touched upon
controls,
it,
and
yeah.
that's something that
It's-
all of us have to work along
And
with
I
that.
think hotels have to also understand that soon offering of their hotels will not only have a 5-star rating, it will also have a sustainability index. There's no, it could be a different index created by companies, or it could be an index that's universal. It's going to come very fast. And if sustainability is just pushed by the side, I think it's big trouble. A quick one, domestic business. Everybody's gung-ho, we love it, I hear it all the time, and I agree with everybody. It's the best piece of business that happened in 18 months. The borders open tomorrow, air liquidity increases, people start flying to Phuket. Make My Trip will have 4 charters a week, rightfully so. Pathu will look at his hotel in Dubai and say, listen, send everybody there, and everybody will start selling everywhere in the world, and people probably would demand that. How do you see this changing? I mean, is there going to be a major shift, or do you think people are saying, no, we'll continue in India for the next 2 years? It's not going to be like an exodus of tourists overseas.
I think it's the principle of economics, it's demand and supply. Even today, 35 countries we can travel to. I asked a few people, and friends of ours, we were away, I just got in late last night, and we were in Switzerland for, a workcation. My son is there. And a couple of our friends wanted to come. We did all the work for them, and they just had to get on. And finally, both of them said, we're not coming. And I said, why? Saying, yaar, jhanjat bahut hai yaar. Yahan test karaoge, wahan test karaoge, agar kahin phas gaye, and this is our age group, tab kya hoga? And they cancelled, but they went in India. So I think some of it will stay.
Yeah.
Some of it will stay, but the rest of it, I think it's demand and supply. People are going to look at Dubai when it opened.
Short
Now,
haul.
I don't get Dubai, guys. Personally, I just don't get what's so attractive about Dubai. But during pandemic, I have 3 different friends who have migrated to Dubai. So there were people dying to go. There were people dying to go for the cricket match on 24th of October, and I said it'll be a super spreader event. They're saying, nahi, yaar, jana hai.
Okay.
So they're all types. So
Okay.
enough people will go. They're dying to travel, but at the back of your head, there's that little fear. If you get stuck, what happens?
Yeah.
You're in your own country, and that's fair. I think there's no
It is.
question.
I think
Priya?
there's still a lot of fear about travel. There's still a lot of fear about being in enclosed spaces. So even though we're being very brave today, it's one of the first conferences I think I've
All
come
live
to
in
in
person.
2 years.
We
Everything's
did
been on Zoom.
Naveen's conference at the Andaz before the
Yeah.
second wave,
So,
which was
That was amazing. So there are. I agree with Deep. Some people are ready to go on a flight
So
today.
domestic
and some are
business
up
is
and
here
down.
to stay. There is going to be
Domestic tourism has to be our mainstay.
yeah.
It's always
So the
been,
hotels-
I think
It
for
was-
all of
It was
us.
400 million people or
So the
500 million
hotels
people
should maintain
traveling.
the rates. They should, keep going. Revenue that came in the last 12 months is something that you expect going forward too. Hotels can expect good revenues going
Of
forward.
course. I think
Very
we're
good.
already up to about 75-80%
Yeah,
occupancy
super.
already. So
Yeah.
it's good.
Patu?
Generally agree, but my view is also that I think all this hua will be over in 3 to 6 months. And it will become very localized epidemic management. I think the world will find a way to have vaccine certification or equivalent. And I think domestic travel in India will bounce back, but large corporate travel, which is about 20% of demand in India, will probably shrink by 20%. So overall, there will be, my estimate, a drop of 4-5% in demand, which will be compensated by an equivalent drop in supply.
Fair point, and I didn't
Yes,
touch
supply,
upon corporate
yeah.
travel because a lot will be spoken about out here. So my last question, before we wrap up, because time's up, each of you have $100, million to invest, right? Where would you invest it?
Crypto.
Crypto. Priya?
Oh, I'll build more things in the company.
Patu?
I'd buy a yacht and just disappear.
That's my plan B.
If I had that money, I'll buy a plane, you and I'll fly out and disappear.
Let me tell you, Patu is not flying out with you. Okay, he's got many more people to fly out with. He's not flying out with you or any of us. Maybe
He's not.
Priya.
Deepak answered.
He'll be polite, yeah. On that happy note, ladies and gentlemen, Priya, thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
You've been
thank you,
wonderful. Patu, thank you so much. And Deep, as
Thank you.
always, such a
you.
pleasure. Thank you all for being a great audience, and I hope you enjoyed listening to these three wonderful
Thank
people.
you.
Thank you.